She walked into the bank with trembling hands and clouded eyes, clutching papers she couldn't even see. Her children whispered behind her, their voices coated with sweetness, but hiding something far darker. To everyone watching, it looked like a simple transaction. But to one cashier, something felt off. Why was a blind mother signing away her entire $320 million inheritance without anyone explaining a single word? What the cashier did next would expose a truth so cruel, it would shake the entire town and remind everyone how far greed can go when no one dares to speak up. But first, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and comment below from which city you are watching this video. Before that day at the bank, Evelyn Carter was known around her small southern town as the woman who never stopped smiling, even when life gave her every reason to. Blind since her early 20s, she'd raised 3 children on her own after her husband passed, working 2 jobs, taking buses in the rain, and saving every penny she could. Her kindness was her strength, and the whole community admired how she never complained, even when the world treated her like she was invisible. When her late father's estate, worth hundreds of millions, was finally settled, everyone said it was a blessing long overdue. But blessings can turn to curses when greed creeps in. Behind Evelyn's gentle smile, her children had already made plans of their own. Papers were drawn, lies rehearsed, and all it would take was her trusting signature to lose everything she had worked for. Still, that morning, she walked into the bank believing it was just another errand, never imagining that the people she loved most were leading her into the cruelest betrayal of her life. Evelyn sat quietly in the cool air of the bank, her fingers tracing the edge of the chair, listening to the rhythmic tapping of keyboards and the distant hum of conversation. She couldn't see the way her children stood over her, their smiles tight, and their eyes darting between one another. To her, their voices still carried the warmth of the babies she once rocked to sleep. To everyone else, they sounded rehearsed, too polite, too controlled. The cashier on duty that morning, a young black woman named Monica, noticed them right away. She had seen this kind of tension before, the quiet pressure that comes when someone is being used but doesn't know it. Evelyn's children handed her a thick stack of documents, urging her to just sign here. Their tone carried an authority Evelyn didn't question. She trusted them completely. But when Monica began processing the paperwork, her stomach tightened. The inheritance transfer wasn't just large, it was enormous. Over $300 million. And it was moving entirely out of Evelyn's name. No joint account, no safeguards. Nothing. Monica glanced up. Evelyn sat still, hands folded, unaware of what she was losing with every passing second. Then came the moment that shifted everything. One of the sons leaned in and whispered, "She's blind, so she won't need to read it. We'll help her sign." He said it with the kind of confidence that only comes from entitlement, the kind that assumes no one will dare to question them. Monica's pulse quickened. She'd heard those tones before, voices dripping with superiority, the same kind that once told her people they couldn't sit at the same counters or drink from the same fountains. It wasn't just greed she heard, it was that old, familiar echo of power used to silence. Evelyn hesitated for just a moment, fingers trembling over the pen. "Is this really what Daddy left?" she asked softly. Her oldest son chuckled, patting her hand. "Of course, Mama. You trust us, don't you?" Something in Monica snapped. She couldn't stay silent. But speaking up could mean trouble. She'd seen what happened to people who interfered. A few weeks ago, another black employee was written up for disrupting client relations when she tried to stop a similar scheme. The memory burned in Monica's mind like a warning, stay in your place. Still, watching Evelyn's shaking hands reach for the dotted line made her heart pound with anger. How many times had people looked away when injustice unfolded right in front of them? How many times had fear been the reason silence won? She leaned forward slightly, voice steady. "Ma'am, before you sign, would you like me to read this out loud to you?" The room froze. The sons exchanged quick glances, their faces tightening. One of them forced a laugh. "That won't be necessary." But Evelyn turned her head toward the sound of Monica's voice, the only one in the room that didn't carry deceit. "Please," she said softly. "I'd appreciate that." Monica's throat tightened as she began to read. Line by line, the truth unraveled, the inheritance, the transfer, the deception so carefully planned. The more she read, the quieter the room became, until even the air felt heavy with guilt. When she finished, Evelyn didn't speak. She simply set the pen down on the counter, her blind eyes steady, her voice trembling but strong. You were going to take everything your grandfather left us, she whispered. And in that moment, between betrayal and justice, the entire bank fell silent. What happened next would change not only Evelyn's life, but expose a kind of cruelty that still hides in plain sight, wrapped in family ties and unspoken prejudice. The air in the bank turned thick, every heartbeat echoing against the marble walls. Evelyn sat motionless, her trembling hands resting on the unsigned papers. Her children's masks had slipped, revealing faces twisted by panic and rage. The eldest stepped forward, his voice sharp with authority. "Mama, she's lying. Don't listen to her." But Monica didn't flinch. She held her ground, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. These papers would have erased her name from everything, her home, her savings, her father's estate. You wanted her to sign her life away. The crowd began to gather. Tellers paused mid-transaction, customers turned, and the quiet buzz of the bank transformed into a low hum of disbelief. The sons tried to pull Evelyn's arm, but Monica reached across the counter and held her hand. "You don't have to sign this," she said softly. Evelyn's lips quivered. "I raised you better than this," she whispered, her voice carrying both heartbreak and strength. "I can't see what you've become, but I can feel it." The eldest slammed his hand on the counter. "You don't understand, she's blind, she." "Exactly," Monica interrupted. "She's blind, not helpless." Security began moving in, drawn by the tension. And then, for the first time, Evelyn stood up. Her movements were slow but steady, each step a defiance against the years of pity, control, and quiet exploitation she'd endured, not just from her family, but from a world that too often assumed blindness meant weakness, and color determined worth. The manager appeared, flustered, trying to defuse the scene. But it was too late. The truth was already out, exposed by one act of courage. The documents, now under scrutiny, told a story of betrayal, greed, and an inheritance built on injustice. Evelyn turned her face toward Monica, tears glistening at the corners of her eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You saw what I couldn't." And in that moment, amid the chaos, the whispers, and the shame, a blind mother and a black cashier stood together, two women who had been underestimated their entire lives, proving that sight and justice come from courage, not from eyes. But what came after that day would show that truth alone isn't always enough to make the world fair. In the days that followed, the story of what happened inside that small-town bank spread like wildfire. Local news picked it up first, then national outlets. Headlines called it the inheritance betrayal, but for Evelyn and Monica, it was something deeper, a story about courage in a world that often looks away. Evelyn's children faced legal consequences, and though the money was returned to her name, what she lost could never be counted in dollars. It was trust, shattered, fragile, but not gone. Evelyn refused to hide. Instead, she spoke out. She thanked Monica publicly, calling her the eyes I needed when the world went dark. Her words resonated far beyond that town. Because what Monica did wasn't just about saving an inheritance, it was about breaking a cycle of silence. A black woman in a world that still doubted her integrity had risked her job, her safety, her peace, just to do what was right. And in that act, two stories collided, one of blindness, one of visibility. One woman couldn't see, and another was too often unseen. Yet together, they revealed how justice depends not on who has power, but on who has the courage to speak when others stay quiet. Still, the truth is painful. For every Evelyn and Monica who find their way to justice, there are countless others whose voices are buried beneath discrimination, doubt, and fear. How many betrayals go unnoticed because someone was afraid to question what didn't seem their place? So, when you witness injustice, whether it's spoken in whispers or hidden behind polite smiles, will you stay silent? Or will you be the voice that refuses to look away? Because sometimes the smallest act of courage can open the world's eyes.